Impact Zone fam, you know that I normally don't really talk that much about WWE and the shenanigans that we know are going on over there. Like I will mention WWE, and I'll mention some things, or compare some things, or contrast some things, or whatever. And we've talked about the recent releases a couple of times here. A new article has come out, and maybe I'll link the article if I remember. But where's this from? This is Wrestling News, which is saying there may be more WWE releases coming very soon. Now, there has been a lot of discussion over the last couple of weeks about the wrestlers' contracts. Effectively, TKO is basically saying, and I'm not reading through exactly what this says, but I'm spitballing what I remember and what I know, and we've already kind of discussed a little bit. So TKO basically, they've been asking a lot of wrestlers to be cut. And I agree that some wrestlers should be cut or whatever, because there's just too many people in WWE and not enough space for all of them. And yes, even then, it's like you do need guys to do stuff for the other guys to help them get over and whatnot. But again, you just don't have enough space. And again, like I keep saying it, WWE has too many superfluous things. Like they have too many superfluous titles. You need one set of tag titles, one set of women's tag titles, one women's title, one men's world title, maybe one mid-card title for the men and one mid-card title for the women. That's it, pretty much. And maybe NXT. Like, that's it. NXT should have their men's, women's, tags, mid-card, whatever. That sort of stuff. That's the only other set of titles. I don't know about Evolve or Speed or whatever. I guess they can have their own titles, but I don't even know if they're doing Speed or Evolve or whatever anymore. And even if they are, doesn't really matter. I don't really care. But do they really need a title? I don't know. I don't care. But anyway, again, cut things down, concision, make things better. Have one set of tag team, or all the tag teams always going for the tag team titles. Make the tag team division more important. Make some stories that actually involve or revolve around other things or whatnot. And I'm not going to just talk about these things again, but again, I want to make these points at least, try to. Like, but then again, like I think somebody pointed it out that there the other day. Besides the teams that are in NXT or whatever, which I don't think there's that many, but still, they've basically got no tag teams left in WWE. They've got like Fraxium, and I think like the Judgment Day, a couple of, actually they released a few of the Judgment Day guys as well, didn't they? No, they released the Wyatt Six guys that were a tag team. I think they released the Motor City Machine Guns, and they released a whole bunch of other people, but effectively, like, that cut them down to very few tag teams, basically. But anyway, so, like, that's one thing. And, like, again, having two shows really means that, especially, I don't know whether they're moving down to less hours now or what, I don't know, but whatever. That means whatever didn't make the cut, so to speak, on Raw or whatever for your Monday night storytelling, it now has to be on Friday night or whatever. Or again, like the NXT roster has been absolutely gutted. Let's send some talent that we're really not using, but that we still have some, like, idea of saying, oh yes, well, we still really want to use them and we still see some potential in them, but they're just not there yet, or whatever else it is. They've got a bright future or whatever else it is. Maybe they'll be on the main roster at times or whatever else it is, but they'll be in NXT as well, just to keep them doing things and keep their reps up and keep them having stories and keep them having, like, being relevant. They're not just going to be here enjoying nice catering. But again, like, let's send some of the talent that you've got down to NXT that you're just not using and you just don't really care about. Give them a fresh coat of paint. Give them something else to work with. Just see what becomes of it. Let them be a bit more creative. Let them work with some of the new, younger guys that need help to get up and that sort of thing. So, yeah, that would be a great idea, I think. But still, here we have this report that basically saying, like, most of, like, what I assumed as I was coming into this. So, on the heels of last week's roster cut, now, actually, I think there was a lot of rumors around Roman Reigns having to take potentially a pay cut, but there was certainly a top talent. But anyway, a lot more people realized that WWE maybe, there might be a lot more releases coming. So yeah, in fact, a few people that were announced, like they were, put on the posters, or they were, hey, come see Roman Reigns or whatever at this show. I don't know. I think Roman Reigns was one of them. But anyway, they were advertised heavily for some of these shows. Yeah. Wait, what? Where are we? Where are we? Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus, this is worded so badly, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, there had been a few people that had been announced this weekend that had actually been released a while ago. So they were saying, hey, these guys are going to turn up. Oh shit, we just released them like a couple of weeks ago, but they were still advertised to be turning up. Like I think there was one report here that said basically Io Sky is expected to return to finish her program with Asuka, which I wonder who's gonna win that, since bloody she's just gotten released, basically, or cut from her deal. Like, even if, like, I honestly doubt that she's turning up, but whatever. That's crap. That you're still advertising these guys or gals or whatever to be showing up at the next broadcasts, tapings, whatever else, pay-per-views, whatever. But they've already been released. What? But anyway. The SmackDown, May 1st SmackDown ended with Jacob Fatu locking the Tongan death grip on Tangaloa and Tala-Tonga before putting Tanga through the announce desk. Jesus Christ, this is terribly written. The commentary referred to the entire MFT faction being wiped out, not just two members being officially released that weekend. So, like they're doing that to sort of say, hey, this other guy that we released, hey, yeah, he somehow was here, and he got took out by Fatu, which is crazy. Or he was there or something, but yeah, whatever, I don't know. Oh, actually, here it is. I was told that Tama Tonga was gone. Turns out he wasn't released. He wasn't released the next day. I don't know what that means. So I don't even know what he's saying there. Shinsuke Nakamura was also rumored multiple times to be on the way out. Hasn't been on television in months. So a lot. This says that the releases of Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, Tonga Loa, and Jeff Cobb, which I couldn't remember his name, were what? These confirmed. Jesus Christ. It was a mutual departure along with, whatever. So yeah, it was a mutual departure. Bullshit it was. They were saying, let us fucking go. And they said, all right. Probably because they were like, we don't use you anyway. We have no real plans for you. We don't really care about you. And TKO wants us to, cut some money. And I will say again, meanwhile, they jack up the prices, right? We know this. They jack up the prices. They've very heavily jacked up the prices of a lot of tickets and a lot of stuff, really, and make billions of dollars. Then half the show, like WrestleMania, half the show was stuffed full of ads. It was also stuffed full of non-wrestlers and non-wrestling segments. And a lot of those wrestlers that were featured were 40 plus years old, all working snail-paced matches. Then they ask why the crowd is asleep or no one is there in a cost of living crisis, and everyone basically has ADHD as well. So what do you think people are going to pay attention to your absolute... And again, they even admitted a few weeks back that they were using AI to friggin' come up with storylines. They're that lazy and they're that inept of ideas that they're like, AI, generate us a friggin' storyline. And yet they're getting paid, just to say, hey, AI, give us an idea. What? I obviously use AI. A lot of people use AI for different things here and there. But I don't use it for this sort of stuff. I could use it to write an actual script, I guess. This is the idea, this is the outline, and then I could go through it and actually do the things that I would do, or say the things that I would say, or try to change it, or just make bullet points or whatever else it is, or whatnot. This is what we're going to talk about. This is what we're going to whatever. I don't really want to do that much because, again, I'm a very free-flowing kind of conversationalist, especially in these things. And I've got to be, because, again, I'm the only person that's here that does this. So if I had a team member or extra podcaster, I wouldn't have to do as much of the carrying of the conversation. I've got to carry the conversation, so I've actually got to go through all of these things and kind of work it into a specific way of saying these things, because again, without me saying it in a specific way, the conversation would stop and would be dead, and there wouldn't be, there wouldn't be somebody else saying, what do you think of this? Or, oh yeah, I saw that, or whatever, putting their input in. I've got to say, okay, so sometimes I'll read through some of these articles, and sometimes they're so badly written, or sometimes the way that they're written is oh my God, put this way, put it that way, my God, Jesus Christ, or put it at the it should either be at the top or it should be at the bottom. When it's like either starting the sentence with saying, Kofi Kingston, blah, 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 we're all mutually released. Like, that should be the sentence. Or, these talent reached a multiple, whatever. They reached a mutual agreement. Xavier Woods, yada, 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 whatever. The bullshit that they did, and there's been some discussion here. I think Kofi and Xavier both posted something on Facebook. I think, like, Kofi even said something about, like, this is the first time he's been on social media in, like, forever, pretty much, or whatever. Dude, the fuck? And maybe that's because of the toxicity or whatever else it is. I don't know, dude. But again, like, maybe, like, again, this is what I've been kind of talking about and why I've been like, no one's really addressing, like, the elephants in the room in wrestling and stuff like that, especially right now. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But it's WWE is keeping a lot of people insular and saying, look, you can have your own personal opinions about stuff or whatever, but you're here to wrestle. We don't care about what you're, and you can share those opinions with your fellow wrestlers, or you can share that with the crew, or you can share that with me, or whatever else it is. Especially if you're somebody who is Puerto Rican, or is this, or is that, or whatever else it is, and you're afraid of getting deported, or whatever else it is, come to us. We will try to protect you. We will try to keep you within, I don't know why they'd do that, but again, like, maybe that is something that they would have said to them to say, hey, look, as long as you're employed with us, you'll be fine. It's fine. No one's going to, rat you out, or not rat you out, but, like, sort of rat you out to say, hey, no, he's illegal or whatever, and that sort of thing. So that you're going to stay here and whatnot, and you're going to keep wrestling for us. But I guess that was their idea of, like, hey, we want people to keep wrestling for us, so we can't let people, sort of float away and disappear, and we need to we need to keep these talent. So there's been a lot of rumors about a lot of talent, the new contracts, basically. Like, I think I said some stuff about this, but they're cutting back their pay for the wrestlers, right? The wrestlers are besides the fans, the wrestlers and the fans are the lifeblood of wrestling, right? You've already cut the fans out, or you're cutting the fans out, especially the very loyal fans, who came every single week, every single month for years and years and years on end, because you've been jacking up the prices and you've just been interested in the money, 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 money. You're not interested in the actual entertainment aspect of this product. Just by saying, again, we want as many wrestlers to cut their paychecks as possible, and you're all going to have to do that. You're not going to get what you were getting before. You're going to get half of what you're going to get if you're lucky. And that's for people that's like major superstars like Roman Reigns and some other people like that. So everyone else is probably going to get even more, which is like, these guys risk life and limb to go out there every single week to entertain the fans. That is what they do. And yet the CEOs of I understand this is capitalism and this is the way it works, but it's absolute bullshit. Because the guys at the top who literally do nothing, basically, are just earning all these millions of dollars and padding their wallets while they're raising the prices and cutting the paychecks of everyone that works for them. And it's a good gig, certainly in wrestling, for the most part. But again, you know, like, what the hell? You know? That's what I mean. It's like, this is just unfair. And, like, wrestling doesn't have a union, which, like, you know, we know who stopped that. But again, they don't have any real benefits, which are really bad, you know. And again, like that whole independent contractor thing situation, you work for us as an independent contractor, but we realistically own you. You know, you can't work for AEW. You can't work for anyone else unless we give specific, you know, pre-approval and whatever else. If you breach that, you know, we'll sue you for millions of dollars, blah, 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 all this stuff, yada, yada. You'll be blacklisted, da, 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 all this stuff. I don't know. I just think it's absolute crap. And, like, but the main thing here, in my opinion, is WWE, like, despite how much money they're making and despite everything else, despite, like, the metrics looking good in some ways, like, and a lot of people have talked about this here and there that are much better analysts than perhaps what I am. But again, WWE is effectively dead, in my opinion. Like, it's not literally dead, but it is dead. Like, TKO has come along and absolutely killed WWE. Because the only thing that they're interested in is profits. That's all they're interested in. They're only interested in squeezing the fans for every last dollar. And I get that this is what capitalism is all about. But you don't have to do that. You, like, again, you could say, let's just make whatever money we can make and keep going. Let's keep the wheels going. Let's maybe have more, like, sponsorship and more advertising and more broadcasting and more distribution and this and that and whatever else. We've already got all that stuff. We're already making millions and millions of dollars. And hey, I've got a nice house and I've got a nice car. Hey, I don't really need much more. And maybe a few dollars here and there, whatever else, each week or each month or whatever else it is, in my back pocket to help me keep going along and whatnot. That's all I need. That's all I need. And maybe something to help, push the college fund or whatever else, that sort of thing. That's a bit different. That's where I think that you should be. You should be saying, we're still making money. We're still, doing well. Like a few years ago, they were doing really well. And even then, I still could criticize them for what they were doing, but they weren't going out of their way to, let's crush all the wrestlers' contracts, let's cut them by half. This is something like, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was like 2012 when TNA was cutting a lot of wrestlers' contracts, and they cut AJ Styles. They were trying to cut AJ's contract by like a heap. I can't remember by how much. But that was like one of the worst decisions that they ever made, and whatnot. And they just didn't see the value in AJ, which you're like, the people that were making those decisions are fucking stupid and like are solely responsible for the decline of TNA, in my opinion. That was like the real decline of TNA, because TNA could they had a decline, but they could have bounced back. They could have bounced back. They would have bounced back if they hadn't, kept the ball rolling and kept going down this rabbit hole of, let's cut the people that really made this place, or let's cut them down and whatnot, because they're not superstars. They're not from WWE, so they're not worth anything and whatnot. Those are your guys that were here for, like, Daniels, Kazarian, guys like that, Shelley, Sabin, Samoa Joe, AJ. Like, all those guys left within that year. And it gutted the roster and it gutted the heart of TNA. And again, that was corporate, overreach in many ways. They were looking to cut costs. And I understand if you're trying to cut costs. How about you cut some of the big WWE names that are, not actually drawing any money for the company? Like things like that. You've got to friggin' figure it out. You've got to say, okay, we've got to keep one or two of these guys. All right, but we've got to cut costs. How about you don't piss off your TV fucking broadcast partner, which got you kicked off Spike TV, which was the main source of your fucking revenue. That was like the true decline of TNA, starting there. Like, even like while they were like declining for a little while, like that was the true cliff of like, once they got off Spike TV, they haven't they have been recovering in the last few years or whatever, but it's just been downhill from there, and like, I think, unfortunately, WWE is going to basically do the same thing. And this is the same sort of thing that happened in WCW as well. The corporate, money laundering, basically. They didn't really care about the company. All they cared about was making that money. And, like, yes, WCW was like a big drain on the money as well. But they never really let it work. They never sat back and said, okay, all right, you go do you. And like, again, I think it was really badly mismanaged by many people, and no like direct, like, for a long time there was no like, the buck stops here, whatever, that's where it stops or whatever. And even like when Vince McMahon owned WWE, even when he was like, the buck stops with me, like, even when he was on, I can't remember what network it was, but whatever it was, the network was telling him, hey, you have to cut this stuff. You can't be doing this stuff. But we're getting more viewers than what we've ever got. So then it started to become the story of, well, shit, we really don't want you to be broadcasting this shit, but hey, you're getting the best viewership of anything pretty much ever. Same with WCW. They were that sort of style. They had that different energy and that different vibe. And I don't agree with everything that they did, and it wasn't all good or whatever else it was. But again, like, the most people pretty much ever were into wrestling at that time. So again, they were doing something right in some ways, or at least something that people found that they had to tune into, and more people than ever. It became a cultural norm rather than the niche kind of thing that it had been for a long time. And certainly the Hulkamania era was like, that sort of started that, like, it became a more general sort of form of entertainment. But still, that 90s period with Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, Mankind, meanwhile, WCW, you've got NWO, Hogan, Nash, Hall, Goldberg, Sting, all this stuff going on, and you also had the great cruiserweight action that WCW had, the great wrestling that they had and whatnot. Or the great wrestlers that they had, and things like that. So again, you brought that all together at a certain point in one place, and it was like, yeah, there's no real competition for that. People love to try to talk about how, AEW is the biggest competition that WWE has got. The biggest competition that WWE has gotten, well, this isn't from wrestling, but it's from just ticket sales and stuff like that, is from other sports and other forms of entertainment in the last 20 years. But if you're talking about wrestling, then what defines biggest? Biggest gates, highest attendances, like most money drawn, most pay-per-view buys, all of that sort of stuff. So what does that like look like? That's what I mean. It's not just that's a statement and it's correct. What does that look like? You know what I mean? Because you like, besides anything else, you still have a lot of other stuff that's been out there, that's been an alternative. AEW will never be true competition. It is perhaps the biggest competition in some ways, but it's never really going to be competition unless WWE does go out of business because they decide that they care more about, again, corporate profits and whatnot, squeezing the money out of the fans. And at some point, the fans, at least the true fans, won't be able to. And I think there was some report or somebody said something about, like, we don't care if we lose all the old fans, or this is something that they said about TKO saying, we don't care if we lose all the old fans. We'll get new fans. Fans who want to see celebrities and want to see whatever slop, effective AI slop we put together. Basically. And just the biggest names, like Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. That's not how wrestling works, okay? Wrestling needs to have your young, new guys. You cannot rely on the same old guys that are over now. That's the problem that they made with Hogan. He was there for way too long. People got sick and tired of it. And people start, not just monetarily wise, because even if people were able to come to the shows, even if it was for free, eventually people will get sick of seeing these guys that don't work a very exciting, or even, like, again, the guys themselves won't be able to wrestle for much longer because, like, their bodies won't be able to take it, even doing what they're doing. But again, still, nothing lasts forever. Once Roman Reigns retires, once Cody Rhodes retires, or whatever, God forbid that they get injured, and injured long term, not just like 6 months or a year, but like 2 or 3 years, 4 years, whatever else it is, long term, then it's like, right, well, we've got to try to strap the rocket to somebody. What's that? We've gotten rid of all the young talent that we said weren't worth anything, or whatever. Or we only have all these talent that we think aren't worth anything. So now we've got to put it on somebody that we don't really want to put it on. Or we've got to go around and go back to the people. And again, this is where, again, like the rumors of saying, oh, EO will come back, or this person will come back and they'll be in another role or something. The bitch they will. If I was EO and I was like, or Kyrie rather, or whoever, actually I shouldn't have said EO. EO's still there. I don't know what I'm saying, but you know who I mean. You know what I'm talking about. If they let me go, basically, but like that, I would say I ain't coming. No matter how much I respect Asuka, I hope Asuka fucking says I quit too. I quit. I'm going back to Japan. I'm going. Bye. That's it. I'm done. Or I'm gonna go to AEW. Or I'm going to go to TNA. Or whatever. I don't know what she wants to do. Maybe she wants to go back to Japan. I don't know. Same thing for Kyrie. Like, I think that both of them have to be thinking, like, is this it for us? Is this one of our last big things that we can do together? And is this one of the last, like, years in our career? Who knows? Maybe next year, I don't know whether either of them have kids, but they're both in their 40s. Do they want to have kids? Or whatever else it is. If they want to have kids at some point or whatever else, and they don't want to adopt, Jesus, they need to be like, okay, I at least need to take a year off. And if I take a year off, well, then realistically, to have a kid, then realistically, I need to take most of my time off because, again, hey, well, I've got a kid now. That is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job, effectively, for the most part. It's not just all rainbows and sunshine or whatever else. It's not like, I don't think it's like Armageddon bad. But again, it's not just, I'm going to go have a kid and then I'm going to come back in 6 months and then going to wrestle. There's been a few people that have done that or whatever else. But again, same thing, like I've said this with the Hardys. Like they said, hey, we've made a lot of money. We don't really need a lot of money. We're not really that greedy for money. We're pretty well off. We're pretty happy where we're at. What we're looking for is to, ride off into that sunset and have the last great matches of our careers and the last great stories of our careers. We're looking to leave that legacy and leave it bright, and then go out and, have that last dance, so to speak, that last hurrah, so to speak. And at least, I agree with that, statement. If you're gonna go out, you better go, that's what a lot of wrestlers do. Like AJ, he said, I want to go out with a bang, effectively. I don't want to go out with a whimper. I don't want to go out with being like, oh, I can't go as well as what I used to be able to go. And people, especially with AJ, everyone thinks of him and looks at him like he's the GOAT, pretty much. And he is. So again, that little slip down, even from being he's still one of the best, is that little slip of oh, no, maybe it's time to quit while you're ahead and not slip down even just a little bit more, before anything else happens. Because again, that injury, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was holding him back, and he was like, dude, I need to end this. I need to end this. I need to end this. Or at least for a little while. I need at least to heal for a while. I at least need to rest for a while. I really shouldn't have come back with this injury. But I felt like I needed to come back. I felt like I needed this one last run. This one last little thing to finish off my career or whatever else it was. And I felt like I could do that, and I know that he's grateful that he could. And I sometimes wish that I'd been able to watch some of it or see something or whatever else it was again. But still, it is what it is. And I still kind of hold out that hope to say, hey, maybe it'll happen. You never say never, man. People have come back out of retirement, years later, like Shawn Michaels did. He came back out of retirement. It was a bad match, but, Shawn had the best performance in that match. Despite, everything else basically going wrong, he had a pretty decent performance in that match or whatever. But still, I think reflecting back to TNA and what we generally talk about here, my thoughts are, again, not just on the wrestlers or the production staff or whatever else, the crews, whatever else, the medical teams, the referees, anything and everyone and anything else, and the AEW's there and New Japan's there and Ring of Honor's there. And, well, Ring of Honor's really part of AEW, but whatever. NWA is there, There's a bunch of indie promotions as well. There's so many opportunities for people. Maybe not the big, maybe if you want the big bucks, you've got 2 or 3 choices realistically, especially in North America, I would say. And that's another problem right now. But as I said before, if I was TNA, I'd be saying, dude, we've got to get out of the US because we've got 2 major rivals that are right on our, right in the same place. We've got WWE. Well, even if we're partnering with WWE, doesn't matter. We have got to book our own venues. So if we want to book a venue and WWE's like, nah, we've booked that a venue. Oh, well, that sucks for us. We've got we've got to change things around because WWE exists. And we're in the same place as them. And we've got to change things around because AEW exists, and we're in the same place as them. So we can't book the same arenas in the same places in the same towns, as what they are, because that's dividing the audience. And again, especially at this time period, it's dividing fans' money. And again, as I said, maybe the fans will be maybe they'll just watch on TV a little bit more so, but again, will fans who want to go and see a WWE show be like, well, it's too damn expensive? How the heck am I meant to go when it's costing me an arm and a leg and a leg and an arm and a kidney and my firstborn child to, go to these shows? I could go to any wrestling show. I could go to my local indie show. I could go to an AEW show. I could go to a New Japan show maybe, like if they are touring over here or whatever. I could go to a TNA show. So again, it opens up the optionality. And I can't remember when I was talking about this, but I don't know whether I actually talked about this on the podcast or not, but maybe I did. But I said something about what if Triple H and a bunch of the other guys from the WWE creative were like, let's quit and let's form our own wrestling promotion because they're sick of TKO taking over. Let TKO run WWE. Let's buy into AEW, or let's buy into TNA, or let's buy into another company, and let's run that other company because forming your own company comes with a lot of fraught issues. Buying into another company, I think, has a lot less fraught issues in terms of, okay, we're going to run things now. We're going to be here. We're going to turn these things around. We're going to make the most of it. We're going to try to, get these things together, and we're going to try to make this show the best show and try to, work on that WWE monopoly, so that, there is more optionality in wrestling, or at least that we have something in wrestling that we're still connected to and we're still passionate about and love and whatever. I actually think something that came out of I think this is on the Stevie Richards podcast a little while ago, and this has nothing to do with the WWE layoffs, but this has to do with Hunter and Sean and back in the Attitude Era and whatnot more so, I guess. But I do think that, I think I said this on the cast at some point, but I think Triple H and Shawn still have that little bit of an ego to them and whatnot, or much, much more of an ego to them and things like that. So again, I could understand that in some ways, but again, Jesus. And I think some of these 24 Seven documentaries or whatever else it is, the Vault documentaries or whatever else it is that they've kind of produced have kind of shown that. And like, I can't remember, I think there was an interview with Sean at some point, somewhat, I can't remember when it was, but he was talking about The Rock, and he was saying why, like they were asking him, why didn't you and The Rock ever happen? And he said, hey, he didn't like me, brother. No shit, bro. I wonder why that was. You know, you guys had a long and sordid history during the 90s and even before that. So yeah, of course he probably didn't like you. Plus, again, like at that, like in the 90s, he was politicking against Rocky, trying to get Rocky buried effectively and things like that and whatnot. While he was in the WWE, WWF then, you know, he obviously had his issues and in the drugs and whatever else it is, but still. But then later on, nowadays, he doesn't admit to saying, "Oh yeah, I did that. I did bad things back then," or whatever. He just goes, you know, maybe we ribbed him a little bit, or maybe we did this a little bit. He's tried to understate everything that he did. You know what I mean? So I thought that's not what a Christian does, you know, but, you know, what do I know? So I'm not a Christian, so like, but I've read things and I've listened to people, and some people are very good people as far as being Christians, but, you know, some people are also like, you know, need to be told denial is not just a river in Africa, bro, or something effectively akin to that. And same thing with Triple H. He buried a lot of people. Now, whether that was because of his own, like, superiority complex or, like, whatever else it was, or needing to try to prove himself or whatever else it was, I don't know, or his own overconfidence or whatever else that you want to say, I don't know. But again, I think both of them are guys I would not want to associate with, and I would not want them to be associated with TNA. Especially like if they left WWE and, you know, someone said, hey, we might have a position here for you in TNA. No, the fuck you don't. You do not have a position for them. They can go elsewhere. Let them go to AEW. Let them ruin it. Like, if they go to AEW and they ruin it, good. Like, in some ways. Like, in some ways bad, but, like, that will again prove, yeah, we ain't working with them. Or again, like, we shouldn't fuck around and find out. You know what I mean? We shouldn't fuck around and find out. We shouldn't have somebody on our roster, you know, and then find out they're not the right fit for us. You know, maybe a trial period, and maybe like you say, oh, well, they'll be really good on that trial period, and then once they're off the trial period, they'll start, you know, whatever. But at a certain point, like, that's where it's like, well, we're just not going to pull you off that trial period. We're not going to pull you off that trial period, or we're not going to, you know, offer you a full-time deal. You're here for a short period of time. You can help work with us, you know, but you're under our supervision. You can you can suggest things, but it's not your ultimate call to say, this is what we're going to do and this is where we're going to go. You do not have creative control over what we're doing. You can have a say in what we're doing, but you can't have, like, and it's funny how, like, Triple H had a great era in the black and gold era of NXT. And I don't know why now, and maybe it is TKO in part or whatever. But again, like of late, like the booking that he's had has not been good. And again, like a lot of the documentaries have kind of painted him in a bad light. So again, if I was there and there was any potential for him to come in, I would say, no, let's not do that. Like I said, I don't know whether I said the same thing about Road Dogg. I think I said, like, he was in TNA at one point of time. And I said, like, why would we want Road Dogg back in TNA? Like, what would that, like, give us? You know what I mean? Like, what would he offer to the company? You know? Like, I don't know. So, and right now things aren't perfect or great even. But again, like, in some ways, I would love the Reigns. I would love the Reigns to create TNA stories myself, because I'd be like, okay, let's figure out what we're doing, because it does feel very much, especially right now, that we don't know what the direction is. Like, and it doesn't matter if, again, you have 4 or 5 different ideas or whatever it is. This is the thing about, and that's, like, I said this with like the whole Leon situation with him. Like, there's always that rumor that he's going to WWE at some point, when his contract's up, which I don't know when that is. I don't know. But maybe he's seeing all this chaos and all this drama in WWE and being like, well, maybe your boy ain't going there or whatever. So, but yeah, like, again, if he's going to vacate that X Division title at a soon date and say, hey, I'm going to challenge Mike Santana at Slammiversary for the world title, or whoever has the world title at that point, I will challenge them for the world championship. I don't know. Maybe. And then you can have some sort of match for the X Division championship, even though you only have a handful of people that are really kind of in that division. I don't know. And you really need more. I don't know. I said this before, where I was like talking about, like, I don't know whether I actually talked about the match that Cedric and no, we didn't actually. No, we didn't actually come on here and talk about it. The 2 out of 3 falls match that Leon and Cedric are having. I think it's this week, right? No, it's like on the 14th. I don't know whether, I think that's live, isn't it? Is it live? I don't know whether it's live, bro. Yeah, it must be live. I hope it's live. It'd be a live tape. Well, live to tape. Maybe it's taped to broadcast live. I guess. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I would say that would be the goal, perhaps, because much like Austin Aries, you know, it's like, especially with the division in the state that it is right now, who else can Leon beat, or what else can Leon do with that X Division title? But actually, much more like Josh Alexander. Actually, there's no one left to beat in that X Division. Well, that's assuming he beats Cedric, which I'm assuming he will. There's no one left to beat. Even if he's not going to win the world title, which I actually don't think he's going to. It's like a very, very big match that you get to see between these two great wrestlers, and it's like a dream match between these two great wrestlers. And it's at one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. Right? the question obviously does become, like, if you're going to do that and have Leon lose, what's he going to do after that? And that international title, that's interesting in some ways for Leon. I could see Leon moving into that if he's not going to become a tag team guy, because that's another title that he can sort of do something at least with for a short period of time. And I don't know exactly what you could do with it, but again, like, there is something there at least. I really don't, like, maybe that's if he's staying, or if hey, at least we've got him for a few more months, or at least we've got him for a little while longer. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna have him win that, but then we're gonna have somebody come along and beat Leon for that in, like, at Bound for Glory or something like that. I don't know. Like, it would be really fast if he beats... I don't know. It's, like, tough to say that he'd beat Mustafa Ali for the title before Bound for Glory. Maybe a Lockdown, but then why would he lose it at Bound for Glory? Like, but that is a fairly fast turnaround too, still. So you could say, oh, well, then he loses it. Then what? How much longer is he still under contract, or is he gonna stay? Because if he's gonna stay, then hey, well, maybe we'll turn that into something, But, like, if he's not gonna stay, hey, well, we don't have to turn it into anything. He's just leaving. So we'll just do some more stuff with him until his contract runs out. But, like, if he's gonna stay, then hey, well, let's turn that into something. Let's turn that into him being in a tag team or something else, or whatever else it is. I don't know, again. So, but that's kind of where I'm thinking you're going. And I actually figured this out. I figured this out a while back. But I realized that what you're trying to do with the Righteous and the Hardys is have, like, the final deletion match between the two of them. And that's going to be at Slammiversary, I'm assuming. Well, I said maybe it could be at Lockdown, but I'm just, like, really struggling to think, like, how you're going to stretch it that far out. You know what I mean? It's not impossible, but, like, you really have to take a lot more time with it. So I feel like slow down, show less and less, show only some little things of the Righteous and the Hardys. Very little, like, keep them on TV once a week at least, but have them only in, like, a 1 minute to 2 minute maybe segment of something every couple of weeks, so that you're building to something and you're gonna get there and it's gonna happen at some point, but it's not till later. Again, have Vincent, taunting Jeff, trying to break Jeff. Like, do some of the things like that they did, like, back in WWE, like, when Jeff's dog died, when Jeff's house got burnt down or whatever. All that sort of stuff. Like, have Vincent, like, or have some of his stuff being destroyed, have some of his paintings being destroyed or stolen or something or whatever. And he's like, I bet it was the Righteous, man, or whatever. And they're hunting for them, or they're trying to hunt them down. They're trying to break me, man. And, like, Matt's just there being like, embrace it, Brother Nero, or whatever, And he's like, I'm not ready, man, or whatever. And things like that, or whatnot. I don't know. Saying something like, there's a date on the calendar that we have chosen, and we invite you to the Hardy compound, or whatever. And things like that. Again, that's the more cinematic stuff that they could do. the Hardys don't need to wrestle like a lot. They don't need to wrestle a lot. Again, like I was gonna say, like at some point, I feel like the Hardys do need to have a match against the System, like Myers and whatnot. So I was feeling like, well, that could be another way to be like, okay, use them sporadically and sparingly and whatnot. Have the Hardys lose to the System so that, again, we know, okay, the Hardys aren't just going to win the belts back or whatever else it is. Or if they are going to win the belts back, they're going to have to wait till Bound for Glory or after Bound for Glory or even maybe next year, or like depends if they're still here again. Maybe WWE doesn't want them. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, because again, would they be like, oh yeah, I mean, at least like maybe Matt and Jeff are like, yeah, we don't want a huge deal. We just want to come in, do our thing, and have our swan song, and then we'll go into the Hall of Fame, and then we'll be retired, and that's it. That's what we're here for, But we are here to have one last great run. But like, why would they go to WWE in some ways when it's like, well, what tag teams have they got over there for us to even work with that we could work with? Like, maybe they'll mesh some teams together. We'll wait and see. Like, I don't know. But yeah, like, they have that problem of like, yeah, we do, we could bring you in, but what will we really do with you? And it's, to me, it's really crazy. Again, I'll go back to this, that the WWE, for one reason or another, and I don't know what it was, did not want the Hardys and the Dudleys to be that tables, ladders, and chairs match to be on their show. Even though it wasn't, to me, it wasn't that great of a match. It was that draw. And they let TNA have it. Like, what? What? That is crazy. It's not like they actually went out of their way and said, hey, here, you can have this and you can have that and we'll give you this. No, they're just like, yeah, we don't care. Whatever. Bye. And then, like, what? That's crazy, man. So crazy. But yeah. Though they did give them the Hardys the tag team titles for like a week or whatever else it was during that period of time. But they were like trying to be like, hey, come over and work for us, at that time. And then the Hardys were like, no, we've got a show to do, bro. And then the WWE were like, well, if you're not gonna wrestle for us, we'll take those belts back. Bye. Maybe we'll talk to you when your contracts are up, or whatever. But yeah, no, there's a lot of issues here. I feel like there's so many issues here with these things going on. And the thing is, like I was saying, this could be to TNA's benefit, because again, I don't want to say that WWE will completely go out of business, but I think WWE will take a big nosedive, because without if TKO thinks that like the wrestling the fans that they will get from just having celebrity appearances and things like this on the show, and only keeping to the guys that are their major attractions forever and ever is going to work, they're seriously wrong. That's not how things work. Especially when, like, again, as I said, they're charging more for everything and having more ads and everything. And that's just not going to work. It's going to collapse. It needs to be, yeah, the guys who have tuned in, or the gals who have tuned in, that are just like, oh, look, this person's here, this celebrity's there, whatever else it is, will be bored next time, because it's like, oh, I've seen Jelly Roll here 20 times. He's not very entertaining. What else have they got? They've still got Roman Reigns here. What the heck's going on? I like Roman Reigns, but like enough's enough. Same with Cody. At a certain point, I liked Cody, but now it's like enough's enough. Um, you know, that sort of thing. So, yeah. In fact, TKO might have a real big problem there because, like, realistically, one of the biggest things is once the big drawers are kind of gone and you haven't replaced them with somebody else that the fans will pay their hard-earned money to come and see, then again, like I say it so many times about like people over there and anywhere, vote with your feet and your dollars. Stop purchasing. I know you're like, sometimes it's your own desires or whatever else it is to be like, I want to go and see this. Well, wait a minute. Roman Reigns isn't there. Cody Rhodes isn't there, or whatever else it is, or whatnot, or that's all that's there. It's like, well, yeah, I'd like to see Cody, but if Cody is just gonna fight Roman Reigns for the 100th millionth time, literally, because that's the only two guys that are on the roster now, or whatever, because they're, the so-called draws. It's like, well, yeah, am I really paying a ticket for that? And that's where TKO is going to have the problem, is that fans, like, eventually, and I encourage them to, are going to vote with their feet and with their money. They're going to abandon the sinking ship like proverbial rats. And maybe even the wrestlers will. Like, they'll be like, like, no matter what happens. Like, again, Kofi and Xavier were like, no, we're leaving, bro. We're just leaving then, bro. Bye. That's it. Let us leave. Let us leave. We're done. Once more wrestlers start to do that, and once again, people start to, like, especially wrestlers, not see WWE as the destination, at least for now, like, or whatever, until things change, until TKO starts saying, okay, all right, we will cartel back a little bit, and we'll take care of the wrestlers, we'll take care of the fans, because that is the ecosystem that keeps the wheels turning. Without the major wrestlers, again, and without having replaced those major wrestlers, for fans to keep buying in and keep buying their tickets and keep coming, you don't have anyone. And you think you're going to make all these new fans by having Jelly Roll and all these other people on your show who don't know what they're doing, who could get injured at any time and can't work for a lick of shit because they haven't been trained, properly, and haven't had a long period of learning the ropes, so to speak. Yeah, you're gonna have a problem, because again, there's so many issues in WWE, but this is gonna cause you so many issues, and even from a PR sense. Even just this news coming out to wrestling fans, which it was going to, fans are going to be like, dude, fuck you. Like, fuck you. You are out here, trying to, like, we barely put up with you. Like, what is the last straw that will break the camel's back, so to speak? We barely put up with you saying, hey, we're going to charge you extra money. And half the shows are going to be like ads. And now we're going to cut a bunch of wrestlers. And we're also going to cut the rest of the wrestlers' pays. And either the wrestlers or the fans or both are going to get sick of it. So, and again, it could be beneficial to other places, but it is going to be a detriment to you. Even now, it's going to be a detriment to you, because some people are going to go, right, well, you guys just don't care. And as long as you're in control, well, I might as well tune out, because no matter how invested I am, I'm sick of you guys profiting off of me. Like, I'm not going to buy anything. Maybe I'll watch, or maybe I'll see the clips or something or whatever. But, you know, I'm going to cancel my subscriptions, you know, because it's too expensive. And what do I get out of it? You know, you just cutting everyone all the friggin' time and expecting me to pay more and more and more just to pad your own pockets, while half the shows are friggin' full of ads, you know, and stuff. So, yeah. I just think that part hasn't even dawned on them, that bad publicity, even this is bad publicity, like, of, you know, just, oh, well, we'll hope the ball keeps filling, you know, or whatever, and keeps rolling. That's not going to happen. People are going to react to this and are going to be like, have their own opinions, and are going to do things. And that includes the fans and the wrestlers. The wrestlers are going to be like, well, you don't give a shit about us, and we're the ones that put our bodies on the line to do this. So we're the, like, you know, and same with the support crews and whatnot, the guys that actually put everything together. It's like, I don't know how, you know, wrestling doesn't work without those guys and those gals. Same with the referees and whatnot and all of that. There's so many elements. There's so many different things. The editors and the production and the lights and everything that goes into a show. You know, but obviously you don't care about them. You just care about padding your own wallet. So again, like, this bad publicity will hurt you. Wrestlers like Xavier, and maybe you go, oh, well, that doesn't matter. They're low-hanging fruit that we didn't want really anyway, and we were trying to get them on a, like, 75% pay cut or whatever it was anyway, or like something like that, or even just fired or just released anyway, because we don't really care about them. So they're low-hanging fruit, so we don't care if they're gone. Or we don't care if these other guys are gone. Because, again, they're low-hanging fruit, so we don't care about them. Eventually, it's a domino effect. The lower-hanging fruit goes first, so to speak. The lower-level guys. And then your more medium-level guys. And then your more upper-level guys. And then the highest-level guys are gone. You know, because that's how it goes. The people at the bottom get squished out first. You know what I mean? And then the more upper people get squished out, and so on and so forth, up and up and up. And then you've got nothing left. You know. So, what will you do then? And again, the fans won't be coming then, because, like, you won't have anything for them to, you know, be sold upon, you know, to come and see your show. Come see Jelly Roll versus a mop or whatever. I don't know. So I don't think that there's way to make it work. I think it's a fail. It's a failed plan that they have. That's fraught with, like, I don't know, just stupidity on their part. But it could be to TNA's benefit, and it will probably also be to AEW's benefit. But, you know, we're obviously focused on TNA here, so, like, we'll have to wait and see how these things pan out, because perhaps TKO will realize, you know, hopefully, well, in some ways, I don't know whether want to say hopefully, but I do hope for the WWE fans in some ways, I guess, because they deserve to see what they want to see on a weekly, monthly, whatever basis. So, but again, like if TKO realizes, hey, this isn't working, we need to go backwards. We're earning enough money. We've got enough money. Let's lower the ticket prices. We've got enough advertising. We've got enough other things. We can get by with, and some of our CEOs might have to take a pay cut, but they're doing fine. As long as this thing keeps giving us money, that's where we need to be. We need to be not completely squeezing people dry and just hoarding it all in the people that are at the top. We need to be paying everybody fairly for what they do. And I don't know whether they're going to do that, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, and what comes out of it. Yeah, how it's all going to come together, how it's all going to come down. And yeah, we've got to, make those, things that will say, hey, no, we're not interested. Triple H, no, go away. At least as far as full creative, you're in control, whatever. Maybe Paul Heyman, I don't know. Depends. But again, we need to figure out, okay, let's utilize, again, I would love them to bring back as many old school TNA performers like ODB and some of those other people to be this is your last run. This is your, whatever. This is the last rodeo, so to speak. Let's do something big. Let's do something bad, or even it's not literally the last run, but that's the sort of thing. You're coming back, Tara and Terrell recently posting about having her last run, and Buff Bagwell saying, hey, I'll wrestle one more time in TNA or whatever. So, I don't know, dude. That's kind of crazy. And we'll have to wait and see about that. But again, what are we going to do? All that stuff. So we'll have to keep track of it. But anyway, with all that being said, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this. And I hope you will all be safe in this crazy, crazy world. Be kind to one another. Please try to join me again in another one.